Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the March 16th, 2022 Special School Committee meeting at 3:06 p.m. Mr. Parsons will be joining us momentarily. He is stuck in traffic, so we decided to get to our business items that aren't really relevant to the conversation for the five of us. So with that, the March 16th, 2022 Special School Committee meeting will be televised and recorded and may be viewed live on Comcast Channel 22 and Verizon Channel 34 or at youtube.com/Tewksbury-TV. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session at a public hearing. At this time, I would ask if anyone is recording today's meeting to please identify himself or herself. Seeing none, we're going to move on to Citizens Forum. Is there anyone in the audience this afternoon that wishes to speak to any item on today's agenda? Yep. Welcome, Mr. Parsons.
Sorry for being late.
Seeing none, no worries. As I stated earlier, Mr. Parsons got stuck in traffic, so we were just getting to our general business items. So we are now on to our submission of payment and bills. I'd like to turn it over to our clerk, Mrs. Garabedian.
So I move the school department payroll for the period ending 2/17/2022 to be approved and certified in the amounts and categories as shown for a total amount of $1,441,917.94.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the payroll period ending February 17th, 2022 in the amount of $1,441,917.94. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. Thank you, Mrs. Garabedian. Now going to move on to our ratification of our successor agreements. With us today, we have the president of the Tewksbury Teachers Association, Mr. Connor Burgoyne, and I would welcome him if you would like to say any words before we get to our vote.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I just am happy to report that last Friday we did, as I informed you all via email, but to the community, we voted to ratify both the teachers and aides contract. I think I speak for everybody when we're glad we're through this. We look forward to continuing our efforts in educating the kids of Tewksbury, and I look forward to this vote and the eventual signing. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgoyne. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, seeing how myself and Mrs. Garabedian did the negotiating on behalf of the school committee, I would welcome a motion from one of the other members if they would like to make a motion to ratify the Tewksbury Teachers Association successor agreement.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the successor agreement between the Tewksbury School Committee and the Tewksbury Teachers Association. This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Garabedian, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Demos, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Stadman, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. It's a unanimous vote. 5-0. Congratulations. And on behalf of the school committee, I know we have one more business item to get to. I do want to extend our gratitude, Connor, to yourself and the negotiating team. Certainly it was a long way to get here. It's been a long road, and I can share our enthusiasm that we want to make this vote today and be able to set in the process our financial piece of it so Mr. Libby can start putting the numbers together. And I will sign this. I will ask Ms. Gail Johnson to make a copy for you, Connor, and we'll do the same with the aides as well. Do I have any discussion amongst the committee members relative to the aides contract?
No discussion.
Seeing none?
Make a motion to ratify the successor agreement for the Tewksbury Educational Support Personnel.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to ratify the successor agreement between the Tewksbury School Committee and the Education Support Personnel. Mr. Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Garabedian, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Demos, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Stadman, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Congratulations, Mrs. Noel. Thank you for joining us. You're more than willing to come up if you would like to say anything on behalf of your group. I will say the same thing that I said to Mr. Burgoyne. I appreciate you guys working together. I know it's been a long process for us to get here, but certainly we couldn't have both got here with the parties given a little on both ends. So on behalf of the committee, we really appreciate your efforts. So.
Yeah, thank you. And the aides and educational support people in the district are happy. We're all really excited that it got done. We're really happy that, our aides can, get their pay scale. We're really excited that everybody is on the same page. And yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dorothy Presser for our discussion of the superintendent search. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have a few items of business to take care of today in the progress of the search moving forward. First of all, I believe that you all received the information from the focus groups and from the survey. Had a great result, a great number of respondents to your survey. That was really nice to see. So just like a very brief overview, I gave you sort of the write-up overview. We asked in the focus groups, what do you see as the strengths? What do you see as the challenges of the Tewksbury Public Schools? And people certainly saw strengths, particularly the teachers said that, they really enjoy working with their students. They feel they have a great relationship with their students. And they feel that within their buildings, they all have great relationship and enjoy working with each other and have a lot of respect for and support from their building administrators. They feel that, or the respondents felt that the students in Tewksbury were provided with a rich and varied experience in their education, that the district is well-resourced, and certainly the new building that's coming on board soon was touted as a strength of the district. In terms of challenges, I think there's probably not a district in the nation, probably, that doesn't say the past 2 years have provided challenges that will continue to be with us for a little while, along with some of the political aspects of the past few years, so that mental health, and both for students and staff, mental health and social emotional support is important, as well as addressing issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the district. There's some concern about the high turnover of staff in the district, and that is, again, something that's not necessarily unique, but something that needs to be addressed. And there's also a feeling that there needs to be some work done on building a coherent and aligned curriculum throughout the district. Perhaps more unique to Tewksbury, the past couple of years of the teacher negotiations have left a mark in terms of the need to repair and rebuild some of those relationships that have become frayed during that time. So those were the sort of the strengths and challenges. When people were asked about what does the next leader need to be successful and lead Tewksbury to success, I think the top thing that came out was the need for someone with really good communication skills, not just communicating outwards, but the listening communication skills as well, the ability to be a collaborative leader that was making decisions that were visible to people, where people felt they were included in the decision-making. In terms of sort of what did the person need in terms of background and skills, I think it was clear that, again, the ability to have skill and curriculum development and instruction sort of matched up to the need, sort of the challenge of curriculum development. People were looking for someone who had experience either as a superintendent, assistant superintendent, or building administrator, so that sort of high level of administrative experience, along with knowledge of special education and a solid experience in the classroom. so that that knowledge of curriculum and that administrative experience was rooted with really solid experience in the classroom. So that, I mean, very high-level overview. You got the hundreds of responses that were the open-ended responses, as well as the charts and graphs of the different responses. So I'll just stop and see if anyone has any questions before we move on to the search committee information that we need.
Sure. And I'm going to break precedent here, Mrs. DeMosseri, and start with Mrs. Garabedian, as she will be our school committee member serving on there. So we'll start with Mrs. Garabedian.
So I don't really have any questions. I mean, I think it was a lot of information. I so appreciated it. I think this is going to help guide us really well. I think I listened really strongly. You know, I read every single one of those responses, and I started my own little list, and then I had to kind of stop the list. But, you know, I think it's fantastic information. I loved hearing from both staff, understanding the difference between whether it was coming from a teacher or a staff member, and then also hearing from our families. So I think you did a great job, and if we can somehow bottle all this information for the search committee, I think it'll be really helpful.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Garabedian. Mrs. Demos?
I don't have any questions, just commenting on some of the patterns that we saw in here with the social emotional well-being of both the staff and the students, as well as collaboration and involvement in all the stakeholders in decision-making going forward. I think I would just make sure that we're keeping that building and district culture at the forefront that needs some, you know, repairing and building again. And I think that with a collaborative leader and one who is listening to all those involved, I think that it'll serve the town well.
Thank you. Mr. Parsons?
So no real big surprises from the summary of this data, the survey data. So it's refreshing to see that community's in alignment on, you know, where we need to be better, where we're doing well. I know that just sets a great context to make a great decision. So I have no questions further.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Mr. Stadler?
Again, it's good to see the data. And again, there's, just to reiterate, it's everything, pretty much everyone's hit the nail on the head, again, with what we're looking at and what we're looking to achieve with the next superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Stadler. And I don't have anything but thank you, Mrs. Presser.
Okay.
I appreciate this, and obviously, thank you to the members of the public out there and people in the school community. You know, whether it was all the teachers that I think we got a lot of wonderful information from during the focus groups, or parents or stakeholders that took time to fill out the survey and get us this information. So as Mr. Parsons says, we can make, you know, the best decision that we can moving forward, knowing exactly what our community is looking for. So thank you for that. That will take us to the finalizing the search screening committee membership. On behalf of the committee, I would like to thank everyone that took the time to write a letter, make a phone call, reach out to submit. This is a very important process. Getting the survey results in the focus group is only part of it. Another big part of it, obviously, is getting this screening search committee together. And I just want to make sure that everyone is under the understanding that it's exactly that. It's a screening committee. Ultimately, the decision who is going to be the next superintendent rests with the 5 members of the school committee, whoever they may be, when we get to the end of this process. But we certainly are very encouraged by the participation that we got in the number of applicants, and very good applicants from a broad range and spectrum all over the community. So with that being said, I did share with my colleagues, everyone that had put in. I think we've had some discussions. I met similar to what the chair and the vice chair did for the last screening committee. I met with the vice chair, Mrs. Demos, and we've come up with 5 people on behalf of the school committee that, as I said, were very, very, very difficult. It would have been very easy to put 10 people or even more, but I think that this represents a collaboration of what most everyone felt. So without further ado, I would like to offer this on behalf of the chair and the vice chair as a recommendation to the school committee for 5 members to serve in either a community or parent role. The community member that we chose was Mr. Ray Bowden. Parent member Gina, how do you pronounce her last name?
Weaver.
Cueva. Thank you, Mrs. Demos. Parent Danielle Newell. Parent Chrissy Palomino. And a parent, the student receiving special education services, Lisa Wilson. And because of the ever-evolving and changing times, we did make one more selection as an alternate with the understanding that once the process is underway, there's no alternate. The last thing we wanted is if someone, oh my God, I could have made that commitment when I applied 3 weeks ago, and now next week they realize something came up and they can't make it. So we did take everyone's consideration, and we selected as an alternate just in case Miss Shana Abbott. And like I said, I just want to reiterate, that's only if one of those community members prior to the search starting for some reason can't fulfill their role. We already have someone in the wings. So like I said, on behalf of the committee, thank you all that showed interest, that want to be part of this wonderful ordeal for us. And with that, just open it up, make sure everyone is okay with that, or?
Now, is this something we make a formal motion to approve these people?
I think that would be appropriate.
So do you want to add the other members that were selected by their?
Yes, I was going to just
Yeah.
announce that in
Yeah,
a
so
second.
maybe one motion like for the whole,
For the whole
for
docket?
the whole.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Are we good with those? Okay. Well, moving on. Thank you, Mrs. Presser. Those 5 people in the alternate, if someone can't make it, I'm very happy to announce will join from central office, Mr. Rick Pelletier. I would like to note that we did not choose central office. We think the best way to get collaborative people is to have those people in those positions, similar to what we did with the teachers, was have those people choose them, as was the case with the TTA. So he was chosen amongst the central office people. As far as a principal rep, Mrs. Judy McGinnis, same thing. Mrs. McGinnis met with all of the principals. They decided she would be the representative on their behalf. John, I might butcher this, I don't know, I wish Jack was here. Our student representative, who I've heard wonderful things about, Harshat Pal, is that? I think he's a junior, he's taken over for Jack, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But, and once again, he was unanimously chosen by the student council. I'd like to thank Mr. Bernard for helping facilitate some communication, but he was chosen on behalf of the students here at Tewksbury Memorial High School. Obviously, everyone was made aware, Mrs. Garabedian as our school committee rep. And for the TTA, we have Miss Julie Taggett, Miss Emily Noel, and Mr. Peter Malloy. So for the record, Mrs. Johnson, would you like to make a motion? And then I'll just reiterate the names, so.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the community parents, alternate, central office principal, student representative, school committee member, and TTA members to the proposed, to the superintendent search committee.
Okay, do you need those names? Okay. All right.
Then I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 5 community/parent members with the 1 alternate, along with Mr. Rick Pelletier, Mrs. Judy McGinnis, Harshat Pal, school committee member Bridget Garabedian, from the TTA, Ms. Julie Taggett, Ms. Emily Noel, and Mr. Peter Malloy. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. That's a unanimous vote. And once again, thank you very much for all that put in and for all that are willing to assist us in this very important endeavor. And with that, I think there's a couple other pieces of business relative to the search committee. I think we need to have a discussion amongst ourselves what we're looking from with regards to the screening committee for a possible number of candidates. Don't know how many applicants we currently have.
So I am not going to tell you because we
Okay.
know the applicants always come the last 3 days. So what do they say about the stock market? That prior performance is not an indication of the future. You have a few applications, but the number at this point. But I can tell you that generally, the charge to the search committee is 3 to 5 finalists. And that you want, first of all, as Mr. Sullivan said at the very beginning, they can not only send you one, because ultimately it's the school committee that makes the decision. They can't make that decision. You don't want to overload, have too many finalists, but you also want to make sure that you have a pool so that you actually have a decision to make. So the general number that people land, or the general range that people land on is 3 to 5.
Okay. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Sure.
At what point in the search process would that information be public? Is that after the search committee narrows down their candidates? Does that become public?
You mean the names of the finalists?
Yes.
The names of the, yes, everything is in executive session and confidential until the finalists are named.
Okay.
The rationale behind that is wherever they're coming from may not know they're looking.
Yeah.
So you want to give them a chance to say, yes, I have told the people I need to tell that my name is going to become public.
Okay. That's what I assumed. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Okay. Very good.
I have no questions.
Okay.
Would it be up to the search committee whether they have 3, 4, or 5?
Yes.
Okay.
You good with that?
Yeah, I definitely think 3 to 5 is a reasonable number. I would hate for us to have anything lower than that and then have candidates get scooped up by another district or something and then us have to restart the process all over again. So I definitely think 3 to 5 is, I would second that number because you'll know by the number of candidates that are in the, interview process, whether it's going to be closer to 3 or 5 or, yep.
Would you care to offer that as a motion, Mr. Parsons, with the caveat that it will be the selection committee? We're just charging them with 3 to 5, but ultimately they will make that decision?
For sure.
I'm
So
assuming.
I'd like to put forward the motion that the superintendent search committee may choose 3 to 5 finalist candidates during their search process.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair votes aye as well. So we will have 3 to 5. The next order of business regarding the search committee is the appointment of the chair of the screening committee, which is also in our purview. I guess I'll start with Mrs. Demos.
My opinion on this is that, will we have Dorothy really kind of steering the committee with us? I would feel more comfortable with having Bridget be our representative from us to be that chair of the screening committee, to work alongside Dorothy.
Mr. Stanton?
I agree.
Mr. Parsons?
I agree.
That's unanimous, so I will second your motion to have Mrs. Bridget Garabedian chair the screening committee. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Mrs. Garabedian, congratulations, and thank you very much for your willingness to serve in that capacity.
Thank you.
I'll make it as easy as I can.
And then lastly, the school committee may direct the screening committee to automatically grant interviews to any internal candidates or members of the community that may apply. This is typically discretion given to the screening committee. So, I don't know, start with our vice chair, Mrs. Demos, for your thoughts.
I feel as though past practice is if we have a teacher that's looking to apply for a leadership position in town, we always grant the interview. I would see no difference in this, in saying that if we had a leader in our district that was interested in putting their name forth, I think that out of respect, I would say that we should be granting their interviews.
Okay. Mr. Staff,
Heartily agree.
Mrs. Garabedian?
That's exactly what I was just going to say.
Okay, Mr.
Not quite as
Potts?
eloquently, but.
I'll agree.
And I agree as well, so it sounds like. Would you
Can I
like to
just
make
ask
that?
before a formal motion is on the table?
Yes.
About whether, if there's a resident who applies and is qualified, would they also get a courtesy interview?
Yeah. I'm personally okay with that myself, so I don't know where you,
Yeah, I have no problem with that as well. I guess my thoughts went to an employee that was already currently under our purview, but,
Right. I mean, our qualifications were in the job description that they have,
Licensed
Yeah,
or eligible for licensure.
so I mean, if they're, you know, just retired, I mean, it's I'm not going to hold that against them, so.
right.
and just for clarity, the screening committee will make sure they're qualified, correct?
We'll make sure they're qualified before,
Sure,
before the screening committee sees them.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I think that's fair.
That's fair.
So you're not going to be seeing me come up to the,
Correct.
hey,
You would,
All right.
I've had all my shots.
You never know who may put their name in, John.
Would you like to make that in the form of a motion, Mrs. Demos?
I make a motion that we grant interviews to residents and members of the school committee, community, sorry, school community, community. We grant their interviews.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second to automatically grant interviews to any internal candidates or members of the community that may apply and are qualified. All, it's a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all those in, I'm sorry, John. I was right. I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. All right. I think that's all I had. Mrs. Presser, was there anything else that you,
no, I'm looking forward to working with the members of the screening committee, and we'll get to work very shortly. The deadline is a week from Friday, today's Wednesday, a week from Friday, for the applications. Next week, we'll meet with the screening committee to orient them, and then they'll get to work.
And for the people at home, what's the quick timeline again? It's next Friday and then,
Next Friday is the application deadline. The screening committee is meeting on the 23rd for their orientation. They'll meet on the 30th to select the semifinalists that they will be interviewing, and they'll be interviewing the week of April 4th.
great.
Do you have a time for the orientation next Wednesday,
I believe we said 6 o'clock.
6 PM? Okay.
Is that?
All right. And before we adjourn, I just didn't want to be remiss. A couple big things happened over this weekend. I'd like to congratulate our 4 TMH high school students who were DECA state champions over the weekend. And also want to wish the best of luck to our good friend, Mr. Derek Doherty in the Redmond, who won, my God, what an exciting hockey game if you were there the other night in the semifinals. They will be playing Sunday at 3:15 in the Boston Garden for the Division II state championships. So good luck to those kids and those coaches, wonderful group of people. And Ms. Johnson, if we could maybe have those groups in, we can pencil them in for the April meeting. Love to have those DECA kids in. I think there's some other ones that qualified as well, but certainly wanted to acknowledge those 4 kids that won state championships. So, and with that, Mrs. Demos,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn the March 16, 2022 special school committee meeting at 3:36 p.m. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much for attending, and if you're viewing at home.